We live in a fabricated world. Everything in it, we see it is absolutely fake. This has been engendered in us since we were born. And it only becomes more obvious now. The older I get, the more I think, the more I meditate, delve into things and concepts and processes, and all these things that we have been presented with as what should be the norm no longer seems like the norm, but just totally out of place. From going to work, to the indoctrination centers or schools as they're called, to wherever, to the store, everything we do. It's amazing that years ago I used to read the Bible avidly. The book of Ecclesiastes is one of my favorites because I really appreciated the fact that King Solomon was a king that not only had material wealth beyond belief, but he had divine wisdom that was given to him by God, because that's what he asked for when ruling as king. He wanted to make sure that he was going to do what was in the best interest of the servants, and not that he even treated them like servants, but he wanted to know that he was going to do the best thing for them because he knew the God that they served and the God that he served. So it was utmost important that he did everything to the letter. But in the book of Ecclesiastes, Solomon's made an estimation of everything that he owned. And he came to one conclusion. Everything being said, he said man's obligation, and I'm paraphrasing it, man's obligation was to keep God's commandment and serve him. He said this is man's whole obligation. So when you think about the society that we live in today, it's almost like we're born, we grow up, become adults, we work ourselves to death, and we die. What kind of life is that? But Solomon said that everything was futile, or futile, however you wish to pronounce it. But he said that everything was a striving after the wind. So what we're accustomed to, let's say if you take a person who's in a less fortunate situation with more dismal circumstances. A person has no money, has no means of providing for themselves, no place to lay their head. So you would think that person would make the gripe of, hey, man, everything is futile, everything is foolish, it's rubbish. Because of his circumstance, he doesn't have these things. So the thought is, he's going to talk down about these things because he doesn't have them, and probably has a harder time getting them. But not in the case of King Solomon. King Solomon had everything. Now, although money wasn't as an abundance as it is now, but he was king, and he had access to money. His wealth approximately equated to $250 million U.S. dollars today. So he was well off. Solomon also went on to say all the things that he had and all the things that he accomplished. He had men servants, maid servants. He had male and female performers, singers. So he had entertainment at his disposal. You could imagine the food, the banquets, the parties. Everything he did was on a grand scale. He had vineyards and gardens and anything you could possibly think of that your money could buy, Solomon had. And he even had an abundance of female companionship. As the Bible said, that Solomon had over 1,000 women. Yet and still this man was unsatisfied, and he made an estimate of all that he had and said that it's nothing. It's striving after the wind. If you think about it literally, one cannot catch the wind. You cannot even see the wind. You can see the effects of the wind. You can see the trees blow, the grass blow. You see things move. You see storms occurring that are stirred up, and as a result, strong winds take effect. But you can't see it. You can't touch it. You can't do anything with it. He likened everything in his life that he had to chasing after the wind. And this is where we are today. The fabricated society tells us everything the complete opposite of what we need, want, desire, that absolutely is not in our best interest. Society has us going after consumerism. Buy this, buy that, buy these things, you'll be happy. If you want success, get this. And it's all a striving after the wind. I started recently reading a book called Man's Higher Consciousness. It's by a gentleman by the name of Hilton Hutema. Hilton Hutema lived many years ago. I can't remember the year, but it was back in the early 1900s, if I'm correct. And I am going to get the correct date and the other detailed information about the gentleman, because I do want to do a podcast about him, talking about his life, his legacy, the book, Man's Higher Consciousness, what it was thoroughly about, and how it was suppressed. Because the powers that be don't want the truth, and they don't want you to have the truth. But one thing I know about the truth is that it prevails. No matter how long, how hard, how much you try to suppress it, it cannot be suppressed. Lies cannot stand, no longer how long they've been told, lied to us about, no matter how long we've heard it, even if we act on it because we believe it. Lies cannot stand. No more than a house of cards can withstand winds, or even you just simply using your mouth to blow. A house of cards won't stand. So neither does a lie. So Hilton Hutema, his book, Man's Higher Consciousness, back in his day, the information was suppressed because he realized that we had a fall from perfection, that we actually degraded, starting out as Breatharianism, meaning that we only needed air to live, which is really interesting because in the book of Genesis, when the first human man was brought to life, the scripture says that his body was formed out of dust from the ground, and as a result, God blew into his nostrils the blessed breath of life. So he came to live, although his body was fully developed, created, all vital organs were present that were needed to maintain and sustain the body. The scripture says he did not begin to live until air was blown in through his nostrils. So it helps you to see that breath is very important to us. Now, Hilton Hutema believed that not only was the breath important, but it was the only thing that man needed to sustain his life. And he also gave a list, or the 5 stages of degradation of the human body, meaning we went from perfection, which was Breatharianism, and we degraded down to carnivorism or carnivorism, eating meat. He said a perfect body that was not constructed by food, how can it be sustained by food? And it makes perfect sense. I think about instances where people have gotten hurt or sick, and they recover a lot faster when food is not involved in the equation. Because usually when a person is sick, your body automatically wants to focus on those areas for repair. So your appetite is suppressed because you don't need to eat while you're sick. So that's just one of the ways the body adjusts and adapts. But nonetheless, he said that we've degraded. We started out as Breatharianisms to liquidarians, where you only drink liquids. From there, fruitarians, you only ate fruit. Vegetarians, obviously vegetables, and then carnivorism, carnivore, eating meat. And he makes an excellent point. There was actually some information that stated that for the majority of the meat eaters, when that person dies, and he has upwards of 40 pounds of undigested meat still left in his bowel that has not been processed or pushed out. Folks, Human bodies were not designed to eat meat. I think about the scripture. After Adam was created, God had given them a mandate in reference to the trees, as far as the rules, so to speak. But he told Adam, he said, all the trees in the garden are good for food. But as for the tree of knowledge of good and bad, he said, don't go near those trees. Don't touch the fruit. There was fruit on them. He said not to eat it. But my point is that there was no elaboration. There was no expounding of that commandment. Just simply, hey, it was almost as if he said, hey, you don't need food, but if you should feel hunger, there's fruit for food. So I'm absolutely convinced of two things. One being that man needs very little food to live, and that food is not needed in the equation of maintaining bodily health. There's a gentleman by the name of Dave Murphy. He has a book. The book is entitled The Human Body Workshop. This gentleman has done an excellent job, page by page, laying out. I haven't read it yet, but I've gotten excerpts from it. But he talks about the human body. He sort of expounds on more of the information that Hilton Taylor talked about, but it's the wonders of the human body. We have been propounded over and over again as to what health is. Having health maintenance or having health insurance so that we have access to all these medical wonders. And again, I will expound, but for the sake of this podcast, I want to say that the only thing that can heal the human body is the human body. It knows what it needs. It knows what reactions need to be triggered. It knows everything. The way that the medical society has developed their protocols for addressing health issues and for so-called fixing or curing or maintaining the human body, all these practices go absolutely against the way the human body works. Always wanting to subscribe chemo, radiation, and surgery when addressing cancer. But one thing that should raise a flag in our minds, cancer has been on the radar for close to 80 years. It's been well over 50 years. I would say between 50 to 80 years. This so-called cancer has been on the radar and has been the medical society's top priority in terms of curing. You mean to tell me, in all this time, with all these so-called advancements, that you as a medical society and pioneer, for the time that you've been in existence, you're still approaching this so-called disease with the only same three options and alternatives for curing? That within itself raised a flag. It is absolutely preposterous that you're fighting fire with fire. In other words, if cancer is a disease, why are you fighting a disease with poisons? Chemo, root word, prefix, chemicals. We know what radiation does. Radiation harms the body. It kills the body. In surgery, needless surgery, things are being cut out. Things are being sewed up. Things are being detached. Things are being taken out. Things are being bypassed. The medical society only cares about making us sick and keeping us sick. And it's called health maintenance, folks, not health prevention. They want to teach us how to live with diseases, as if it's the norm. This is absolutely insane that the human body that was created perfect, in which at one time human beings lived almost to be 1,000 years old without even batting an eye. Adam, as recorded in the Bible, and not that I'm making this a religious platform, but the Bible is authentic. Folks, I don't care what religion you are. I don't care if you are an atheist. The Bible is the fingerprint of God. It is His Word. People want to dismiss it because humans were used to write it, but that should show the genius that you can use human beings with imperfect thought in perfect ways to transcribe your perfect word into written language. The Bible is from God. And in the Bible, it's recorded that Adam lived to be 930 years old. Methuselah lived to be 969 years old. The oldest living man recorded. Noah lived to be over 800 years old. These people, they lived that long for a reason. Their environment was not the same as ours, and I'll even use this as a reference. If you read the book of Genesis, after the flood, Noah had inquired about using the animals as a source of food. So, in him asking, it was clearly an indication that humans were not eating meat until after the Diluvian flood period. Had they been, he would not have asked. And God said, hey, sure, eat the animals, but don't eat the blood, because the blood is the life, and it's sacrilege to do so. So I just wanted to share this tidbit, kind of give a prelude to what upcoming podcasts are going to be. Some real good information. I think it's going to be practical. One thing we get a lot of in this system that we live in, that we get a lot of impractical, useless information. Practical information, education, should be information that you can use at any given time, at any moment, that helps to benefit you, those around you, and it should make sense when you do it. You know, not just going out on a limb and believing, but it should make absolute sense. So, folks, thank you. I'll be speaking with you again soon. I hope you've enjoyed this short podcast, and have a wonderful day.